I think we're still believing that brands are communications and not whole of business, which is marketing sciences meets hardcore creativity. So pretty intelligent, pretty smart, but lots and lots of creative magic around the place. Understand who you are, and then in business, choose good partners. I think repositioning a brand is very, very difficult, but being true to the brand is kind of what most businesses need to do.
This is The B-Side. In this series, we're shining a light on the lesser-known stories behind some of Australia's most influential marketing, advertising and creative thinkers. We're going to discuss the often overlooked moments, the challenges, and most importantly, the inspirations that have fueled their successes. Because the real growth happens on the B-Side. Welcome back to another episode of The B-Sides. I'm joined by Adam Ferrier this morning. Adam is quite an impressive gentleman sitting alongside me. He's the founder and chief thinker of Thinkerbell. He co-founded Naked Communications, which became one of Australia's most awarded and most successful agencies that then got sold. He co-hosts Black T-Shirts with Brent Smart, who is always an interesting fellow as well. He's a regular panellist on The Gruen Transfer, The Project and Sunrise. He has an incredible cabinet of awards. We need a little bit more time for me to go through all of those. He's a published author and, very interestingly, a Western Australian. Mm-hmm. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Are you a West Australian?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. What's interesting about being a West Australian?
The number of creatives and thinkers that come out of that state. You punch well above your weight.
It's a very suppressed, right-wing, bright kind of state. And so I think, therefore, if you want to be creative, you have to work harder to kind of flourish. You know what I mean?
I mean, the CSIROs are coming out of there as well. So, Adam, for those that might not know your backstory, let's get into the B-side. Where did we start? How'd you get into all of this?
The place I normally start is being state under-12s chess champion.
Okay.
So that's a good place to start.
It's a good anchor point.
Nerdy and that kind of thing. And then failing school. Went to see a tutor. He said, what are my interests? I said, money and people. During year 12, I used to trade shares all day on the only landline at school. And so that was kind of my thing. And then I got degrees in psychology and commerce to try to become a consumer psychologist, which is what my tutor said I should try to do. And then I got sidetracked into forensic psychology, worked in the prison system for a while.
Oh, wow.
And then did my thesis in identifying the underlying constructs of cool people, what makes people cool. And that got me a job in marketing. And then from there, I just kind of done marketing stuff.
Yeah, wow. If you look back along that scenic journey, what would you say are the three most important things you've collected along the way? And then on the other side, the three things that you've let go of.
Number one is fit in. I like talking about the value of fitting in. Everyone talks about standing out and all that kind of stuff, and you get put lots of pressure on to find your thing, be an individual and so on. But I reckon the skills of fitting in are really, really important. So I try to tell people fit in more.
And when you say fit in, what do you mean by that?
I mean, learn how to assimilate, learn how to get on with other people, learn how to go with the flow. And once you can learn how to do that, then you can stand out, then you can have more influence. But if you don't fit in, you're just going to be an outsider, fucking rabbiting on about the world, and then you don't get traction with the populace. You don't get traction with anyone because you don't have those fundamental skills of how to fit in, socialise, be a normal person.
That's an interesting first place, all right.
Yeah.
So fitting in?
Fitting in is number one. Number two is I was giving a talk many years ago, and somebody wrote me an email saying, oh, Adam, it's obvious you're a really awkward guy, but you've turned awkward into awesome. How do I do that? That was the email, right? That was somebody else saying that to me, and I love that. I love if I can embrace my awkwardness enough that it projects something good, then I reckon that's good. So I think all you've got to play with is who you are. There's nothing else, right? You can't pretend to be anything else. And so it's kind of just digging deep and doubling down on all of your affectations, whether you see them as positive or negative, just double down on them. It will be the second one. The third one will probably be, it'll be a bit trite, but it'll be kind of the value of family, whatever that means to you, and not getting lost in superfluous shit. I
love those three.
Yeah.
Before we do the counter side to that, when you talk about, being comfortable in your own skin, is that is that a chasm that you've had to cross, or have you always been?
No, the chasm I had to cross was fitting in. I've always been very. My mum used to say to me, I was blessed with no ambition, and I kind of knew what she meant. Like I just kind of meandered through, and so I've always been very comfortable. But getting that feedback, how do you turn awkward into awesome, made me realise that I'm onto something really positive here in terms of doing that. But I never put much effort into fitting in, and that made things very difficult at times. And so that's where that was my kind of journey, if you like. Yeah.
And how do you turn awkward into awesome for someone that might be tuning in and going,
I reckon it comes from a place of acceptance that you have no option. Like if people know you for some kind of weird quirk, or you've got some kind of feature that's not particularly aesthetically pleasing, or there's not that much you can do about it. So you may as well just embrace it and accept it and run with it because it's who you are.
I love that. All right. 3 things you've jettisoned along the way.
It's a hard question because I don't think I've jettisoned that much, because I think, give me the child until he is 7 and I give you the man, I still think that's kind of true, right? I think I look back on who I was as a child and I still feel a lot of those kind of traits are in me today. I'm still an attention seeker. I've still got all the negative attributes that I had back then. I've still got them, maybe because I've embraced who I am. I don't know, whatever. But maybe the one thing is I've learned to say no a lot more, and I've learned to prioritize or not chase shiny things quite as much as I used to.
It's an interesting thematic that's come through in a lot of these, B-side conversations, that more and more I think brilliant thinkers are saying they're defined by what they say no to.
Yeah. That's true. I also think I read a piece of research once that said most people who do something really significant in their life do it before they have kids, and then once you have kids or build a family unit, it just literally becomes more difficult to find time. So, get in early.
You don't realise what busy is or tired is until you have kids.
No idea.
Just in sitting here, I'm sensing a huge amount of, self-awareness and self-management. Is that something that you actively cultivate, or is it just, as you said, part of this, no holds barred acceptance?
No holds barred acceptance. Self-management aesthetically. So I always wear black. I have, a beard, unkempt appearance, glasses. All of that is an affectation a little bit. Like it's all distinctive brand assets applied to myself. So at a really superficial level, I do kind of subscribe to that in terms of brand. The brand building. But everyone is now wearing black all the time now. And so I am thinking of changing my colour to like yellow or red and just kind of dress head to toe in yellow. Yeah. But I don't know if I'll do that. And then the radical self-acceptance thing, I think that was... I learnt... do you know CBT, cognitive behaviour therapy?
Yep.
I do like the idea that how you think can control how you feel, and then if you tell yourself the same shit over and over again, you will start to feel that. And so there was a period in my life in the 20s where I really practiced CBT on myself really hard, and that helped me a lot in terms of just that whole fucking manifest kind of stuff and all that kind of stuff. So if you do kind
vision boarding by another name.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I'll just stick with the name CBT because it sounds a little bit more credible than fucking manifest or whatever. But so I did kind of constantly practice thinking things that made me happy as opposed to thinking negative stuff, and that helped.
And do you look for similar qualities in, you've built some incredibly successful businesses. Do you look for similar traits in the people that lead and run your businesses?
Fuck no. If my business partners and co-founders at Thinkerbell had similar traits to me, the business would implode and not be successful. So I am also really aware of my many, many, many weaknesses. I'm good at understanding brands and I've got pretty decent self-awareness. But I'm also a terrible manager. I'm terrible with people. I'm literally the most disorganized person you'll ever meet. Our agency, Thinkerbell, has got amazing systems and processes, and that's all driven by Margie Reed, who's absolutely brilliant, and she's a business partner and our CEO, and she creates complete structure within a creative environment, and that's amazing. John Fitzgerald won the Australian Open many years ago, and his partner at the time was Boris Becker, who was the world's #1 player. And his acceptance speech when he won was rule #1 in doubles: choose a good partner. And I that stayed with me. Like, choose good partners, understand who you are, and then in business, choose good partners.
I assume that you have a fairly significant role in building the culture of Thinkerbell, though. If I were to ask your team, what's the culture that Adam creates, what would they tell me?
If you asked what's the culture that Adam created, it would be chaos. If you asked them what's the culture that Thinkerbell's created, it would be measured magic, which is our proposition.
Yep.
And so which is marketing sciences meets hardcore creativity. So pretty intelligent, pretty smart, but lots and lots of creative magic around the place. And we're really proud of how we've constructed the agency culture. So we have lots of rituals. So we start each week with Measured Monday. We finish each week with Magic Hour. One of our retention programs is a dartboard. And so every year you can throw a dart at the dartboard and you can win on your anniversary. You can win things like a business class trip to London, or $15,000, but you have to spend it in 10 minutes, or a Cartier watch. But you can also win on the same dartboard a jelly bean or a burger from Grilled without a fries or a drink. It just depends on
where the dart lands.
Where the dart lands. So I love that shit, and I love that because it's a really nice exemplar of measured magic, but it's also creative and fun and builds our brand.
I love that, and I think there is a profound impact of just ceremonies and rituals like that.
Totally.
And I think we underestimate the power of those.
Yeah,
rituals.
and they're also behavioural, right? So Measured Monday starts at 9, whether you're in the office. Oh, you have to be in the office as well. And then it starts at 9, never 9:01 or 9:03. It happens every week. And same as Magic Hour, always starts exactly at 4. And that kind of sets the behavioural rhythm of the agency.
Cadence.
Yeah.
All right. I'm fascinated. I want to talk to you about brands, right? I think that you've always got an opinion on these things, and I'm fascinated to understand where are we all getting it wrong at the moment?
Getting lost?
Yeah, in the world of brands.
I think we're still believing that brands are communications and not whole of business. So a brand is basically the connection between a business strategy and the consumer. Everything in the middle is the brand. And I think ad agencies and media agencies have done a good job of convincing people that the brand is the promotion, the 1P of the 4 Ps. And so I think that's one point one we're getting lost. I think the second point we're getting lost is kind of related, is people don't understand the brand positioning, and we're not spending enough time on understanding what's that single central organising thought that runs right through the whole business that we can all latch onto. So, again, at Thinkerbell, ours is measured magic. What's yours? What's the growth distilleries? What's News Limiteds? Like what is that?
The through line.
Yeah. And so I reckon they're the main things.
And what's the antidote to those tripwires?
Spend time thinking about it. Spend time crafting it. Spend an hour crafting it. If you're a really good communicator, then just disseminate it and tell everybody what their role is in building it. Not that the whole organisation doesn't just need to understand it. They need to know what their role is in building it. So everybody needs to know, okay, if our central proposition's X, my role in building that is Y, not just reading the brand book or whatever. And then realising, and then if you can kind of have a philosophy of everything is an opportunity to build the brand. So coming back to Thinkerbell, I'm not just using it as it's a safe example for me to talk about because it's not a client or whatever. On our invoices to the CFO, it's got little questions on it. It's got like, what's your ABN, what's your address, what's your business number, CFN, all that shit. But then it says, do you believe in love? And then another question is, what's your favourite Disney character? Another question is, do you like filling out forms? And that's from our CFO to the other CFO. And I love the fact that those questions exist on that form, because it's our measured magic philosophy running deep within our own business. And so even our finance department gets to understand and practice brands. And even the dartboard, that's a retention strategy, but it's not like a share a profit scheme or something. It's something with a bit of measured magic in it. You know what I mean? So this goes really, really deep, as deep as you can.
And is there a philosophy around consumer centricity and proximate,
The philosophy would be don't be consumer centric. Be
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
Can we talk about that?
if you want to know more, you can read my book. Stop listening to the customer, try hearing your brand instead. And it's just about no customer needs your brand. They don't need your brand. They need a podcast. They need something to listen to. So consumers don't need your particular brand of car. They need a car. And then once they have a need for the category, your brand has to get stuck in their head, right? So the more you listen to the customer, the more you're hearing category needs, and the more you'll be more and more like everybody else. If you can get that strong vision about your own brand and be true to that, and then meet customer needs with that brand, that'll be a stronger way to build your brand rather than going, right, what does the customer need? What do they want? Because it's more than likely there's 3 or 4 other brands already servicing that exact need anyway, and they probably don't need you at all.
It's very counter to a lot of convention around.
Yeah, everybody's becoming chief customer officer and that kind of thing. So it's not a pitch winning strategy to go in there and say that, but anyway, it's kind of what we believe, or what I believe anyway.
There's that unapologetic authenticity.
Yeah, there you go.
What role does innovation play in your B-side? Personal innovation, professional innovation, business innovation.
At a professional level, innovation is all around. I think I'm a pretty heavy subscriber to Ehrenberg Bass, so I think innovation is about creating mental availability.
Yep.
So within our organisation, we have things like mind expansion, which is an extra week's holiday as long as you promise to expand your mind. We have things like pot of gold, where you can get $5,000 to go towards an idea that you've got, and various other things. But all those innovations are also ways of us being able to have something interesting to communicate to our clients as well about ourselves, so they just maintain mental availability. So I think innovation in the role of businesses is a means to just staying top of mind for consumers. I think repositioning a brand is very, very difficult. But being true to the brand is kind of what most businesses need to do. They need to kind of get back to the basics of what they are. And then the more they understand that, the more that can come to life in lots of different products and so on. But it's being true to what you are.
And I assume that with that philosophy, there's got to be an acceptance of failing and learning and evolving.
Yeah, totally. And again, if your goal for innovation is around mental availability, even if you fail, you kind of succeed, because you're still creating, those drops of brand salience, if you like, in the minds of your customers.
Last one from me. We end all of these episodes on the same question. If you could go back to Adam 20 years ago and give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now, given all of the success that you've had, what would you tell yourself?
Do exactly what you did. Like, you completely overachieved compared to what we all thought was going to happen. So you've done bloody well. And don't change a thing.
What an amazing privilege to be able to give yourself that advice.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Good on you. Well done. Cheers.